I, 18 farads, need advice. My family is falling apart, and I don't know what to do. Hey Reddit, I'm in desperate need of advice. My life, which I thought was pretty normal up until a few months ago, has completely fallen apart. I've just graduated high school and should be excited about my future, but instead, I'm drowning in family drama and uncertainty. 3 months ago, my dad, 49M, suddenly left our home. It was a Tuesday evening. I remember because I had just finished my last AP exam and was looking forward to a relaxed family dinner to celebrate. Mom, 42 farads, had even promised to make my favorite lasagna. But when I got home, the atmosphere was thick with tension. Mom was in the kitchen, her eyes red and puffy, and Dad was nowhere to be seen. She told us he was stressed from work and needed some time alone. At first, I didn't think much of it. Dad had always been a workaholic, often coming home late and working weekends. It wasn't unusual for him to be absent, but something about Mom's demeanor that night set off alarm bells in my head. Days turned into weeks, and still, no sign of him. The lasagna sat uneaten in the fridge, a sad reminder of the celebration that never happened. I tried to go about my daily life, finishing up my last few weeks of high school, hanging out with friends, planning for graduation. But there was always this undercurrent of worry and confusion. Where was Dad? Why wasn't he calling or texting? My little brother kept asking when Dad would be back, and I didn't know what to tell him. Then, about a month after he left, Mom dropped a bombshell. She was filing for divorce. I was completely blindsided. Sure, my parents had their arguments like any couple, but I never imagined it would come to this. They've been married for nearly 20 years. How could it all fall apart so quickly? I remember the day they got married. I was barely 3 years old, but there's this photo album that I used to love flipping through. Mom looked so beautiful in her white dress, and Dad couldn't stop smiling. There are pictures of them dancing, feeding each other cake, surrounded by family and friends. They looked so happy, so in love. How did we get from that to this? I tried reaching out to Dad, but his phone goes straight to voicemail. His social media accounts have been deactivated. It's like he's vanished into thin air. I even drove by his office one day after school, but the receptionist told me he hadn't been in for weeks. Mom won't give me any details about what happened between them. She just keeps saying, "It's for the best, honey. We've grown apart." But wait, it gets worse. Last week, Mom sat me down for another talk. My stomach was in knots before she even opened her mouth. Turns out, she's not just divorcing Dad. She's already engaged to someone else, some guy in his late 30s that she's apparently been dating for 2 months. 2 months. The ink isn't even dry on the divorce papers, if they've even been filed yet. And she's already planning to remarry? I was reeling from this news when she hit me with the final blow. She's planning to move out of state with her new fiancé. And here's the kicker. She wants to take my little brother with her, but says I should stay here because I'm an adult now and can start my own life. I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. My mom, who I've always been close to, is basically abandoning me. She's choosing this man she barely knows over her own daughter. How is that even possible? What kind of mother does that? I keep thinking back to all the moments we've shared, the late night talks, the shopping trips, the times she comforted me when I was sad or scared. She was always there for me, always my biggest supporter. When I didn't make the cheerleading squad in freshman year, she held me while I cried, and then helped me find other activities I might enjoy. That's how I ended up joining the debate team, which turned out to be one of the best experiences of my high school years. How could that same loving, supportive mom now be telling me that I'm on my own? Thankfully, my older sister, 21 farads, has been my rock through all of this. When I told her what Mom said, she was furious. She immediately offered to let me move in with her. and even said she'd help me pay for college if that's what I want to do. I'm beyond grateful for her support, but I also feel guilty. She's just starting her own adult life. She shouldn't have to take on the responsibility of her little sister. My sister and I have always been close, but we've gotten even closer since this whole mess started. She's been calling me every day, sometimes just to check in, other times to let me vent. She's even been helping me with my college applications, encouraging me not to give up on my dreams despite everything that's happening. I don't know what I'd do without her right now. I'm so lost, Reddit. I don't know what to do or how to feel. One minute I'm angry at my mom for tearing our family apart. The next, I'm worried sick about my dad and where he might be. Then I feel guilty for being angry because maybe there's something I don't know about their relationship. And underneath it all, I'm terrified about what this means for my future. I had plans, you know? I was going to take a gap year, work at the local library, save up some money, and figure out what I wanted to study in college. I've always loved books, and the idea of being surrounded by them every day seemed perfect. Plus, the head librarian had already promised me a position. She's known me since I was a little girl coming in for story time, and she's been so supportive of my college ambitions. Now, I don't even know where I'll be living in a month. Should I take my sister up on her offer and move in with her? Should I try to convince my mom to let me come with her and my brother? Or should I try to track down my dad? And what about college? My sister says I should still go, that education is the best investment in my future. I've always dreamed of going to college. I want to study literature and maybe become a writer someday. I have all these stories in my head, characters I've created, worlds I want to explore. But how can I think about college applications when my family is imploding? Plus, without my parents' financial support, I'm not even sure how I'd pay for it. My sister is being incredibly generous, but I can't shake the feeling that I'd be a burden on her. I'm also really worried about my little brother. He's only 13, and he's about to be uprooted from everything he knows. He'll have to start at a new school, make new friends, all while adjusting to mom's new husband. And what if this new guy isn't good to him? What if mom's making a huge mistake? My brother and I have always been close, despite the age difference. I remember the day he was born. I was so excited to be a big sister. I've watched him grow up, helped him with his homework, cheered him on at his soccer games. The thought of being separated from him breaks my heart. He's already struggling with Dad's absence, and now he's going to lose me too. It's not fair to him. I've tried talking to my friends about all this, but they don't really get it. Their biggest concerns are which colleges they're applying to, or what they're wearing to so and so's graduation party. They try to be sympathetic, but I can see their eyes glazing over when I start talking about my family drama. I don't blame them. Until 3 months ago, I probably would have reacted the same way. My best friend has been trying her best to be there for me. She comes over almost every day, sometimes just to sit with me while I cry. She's even offered to let me stay with her family if I need to. But I can tell she's out of her depth. How do you comfort someone whose entire life is falling apart? I feel like I'm being forced to grow up overnight. Suddenly, I'm having to make huge life decisions that I'm not prepared for. Should I prioritize my education or my family? Do I have a responsibility to stay and look after my brother? Or is it okay for me to pursue my own path? How do I balance my own needs with the chaos that's engulfing my family? And then there's the emotional toll of it all. I'm angry, I'm hurt, I'm confused, and I'm scared. I feel betrayed by both my parents, Dad for leaving without a word, Mom for seemingly moving on so quickly and being willing to leave me behind. I'm worried about my future, about my brother's future, about what all of this means for our family. I keep replaying conversations and moments from the past few months, looking for signs that I might have missed. Were there clues that my parents' marriage was in trouble? Should I have seen this coming? Is there anything I could have done to prevent it? I remember a fight they had about 6 months ago. It was late at night, and I had gotten up to get a glass of water. I overheard them arguing in their bedroom. Dad was saying something about feeling unappreciated, and Mom was crying, saying she couldn't do this anymore. At the time, I didn't think much of it. All couples fight, right? But now, I can't help wondering if that was the beginning of the end. I'm also struggling with trust issues now. If my parents, who I thought had a solid marriage, can fall apart like this, what does that mean for relationships in general? How can I ever trust someone enough to build a life with them if this is how easily it can all crumble? My own love life, or lack thereof, suddenly seems so trivial. I had a crush on this guy in my AP literature class all year. We went to prom together, and I thought maybe something would come of it. Now, I can barely bring myself to respond to his texts. What's the point of starting a relationship if it's just going to end in heartbreak? The stress is starting to affect me physically too. I'm having trouble sleeping. I lie awake for hours, my mind racing with all the what ifs and maybes. When I do sleep, I have nightmares about being left behind or lost in a crowd, unable to find my family. I've lost my appetite, and my clothes are starting to hang loose on me. My best friend keeps trying to get me to eat, bringing over my favorite snacks, but everything tastes like cardboard. I'm falling behind on my college applications too. Every time I try to sit down and work on my essays, I end up staring blankly at the screen. How am I supposed to write about my hopes and dreams when I don't even know what next month will look like? The deadlines are looming, and I feel paralyzed. I've started having panic attacks. The first one happened at the grocery store. I was picking up some milk, and I suddenly saw a family, mom, dad, 2 kids, laughing and shopping together. It hit me like a ton of bricks that my family would never be like that again. I couldn't breathe, my heart was racing, and I had to sit down right there in the middle of the aisle. An elderly lady helped me out to my car, and I sat there crying for an hour before I could drive home. The house feels different now, emptier, colder. Dad's chair at the dining table sits unused. His coffee mug still sits by the coffee maker, waiting for him to come home and use it. Mom's been talking about selling the house, and the thought of losing my childhood home on top of everything else is almost too much to bear. I've started going through old photo albums, trying to understand where it all went wrong. There are so many happy memories captured in those pages. Family vacations, holiday celebrations, ordinary days where we just looked content to be together. Was it all a lie? Were we ever really as happy as we looked in those pictures? Reddit, I'm at a complete loss. I need advice, guidance, anything. What should I do? How do I navigate this mess? Has anyone been through something similar? How did you cope? Any words of wisdom would be deeply appreciated. Should I confront my mom about her decision to leave me behind? Should I try harder to find my dad? Is it selfish of me to want to go to college and pursue my dreams when my family is falling apart? How do I support my little brother through all of this? I feel like I'm standing at a crossroads, and whichever path I choose will define the rest of my life. But I'm not ready for this. I'm only 18. I was supposed to be worrying about dorm room decorations and freshman orientation, not trying to hold my family together. Please, if you've been through something like this, or if you have any advice at all, I'm all ears. I'm drowning here, and I need a lifeline. Thank you for reading this far, and thank you in advance for any help you can offer. Update 1. First off, I want to thank everyone who took the time to respond to my original post. Your words of encouragement and advice have been a lifeline during this chaotic time. I've spent the last 2 weeks trying to follow some of your suggestions, and well, things have gotten even more complicated. Many of you advised me to dig deeper and try to uncover more information about what's really going on with my parents. You were right. There's definitely more to this story than I initially thought. I've been paying close attention to my mom's behavior, and I'm now certain she's hiding something. Whenever she talks about her fiance, her eyes dart around the room, and she quickly changes the subject if I ask for details. It's like she's afraid of slipping up and revealing something she shouldn't. The other day, I overheard her on the phone, speaking in hushed tones. I only caught snippets of the conversation, but I heard her say, "He can't find out." "No, I've taken care of it. Just stick to the plan." When she saw me, she abruptly ended the call and plastered on a fake smile. It was unsettling, to say the least. I've also noticed that she's been receiving a lot of mail lately, which she quickly hides away. Once, I glimpsed what looked like legal documents, but she snatched them up before I could get a good look. All of this secretive behavior has me seriously worried. What could she be hiding that's so important? As for my attempt to reconnect with my dad, it's been a frustrating and somewhat scary experience. I tried calling his workplace again, but this time, instead of just saying he wasn't there, the receptionist told me he hadn't worked there for months. Months. That timeline doesn't add up with when he left home. I also tried reaching out to some of his friends and colleagues. Most of them seemed uncomfortable talking to me and gave vague, evasive answers. One of Dad's old golf buddies, however, let something slip. He mentioned that Dad had been acting strange for a while before he disappeared, always looking over his shoulder like he was afraid of something. This information sent my mind spinning. What could have scared my dad so much that he felt the need to disappear? Is he in some kind of trouble? The more I uncover, the more questions I have. In a desperate attempt to find some answers, I did something I'm not proud of. I snuck into Mom's room while she was out and looked through her things. I know it was wrong, but I felt like I had no other choice. I didn't find much, but I did come across a crumpled note in her trash can. It was in Dad's handwriting, and it said, "I can't keep living this lie. I'm sorry." The note was dated just a few days before he left. All of these discoveries have left me with a sinking feeling that there's a big family secret I've been kept in the dark about. It's like I'm putting together a jigsaw puzzle, but I'm missing crucial pieces. What lie was Dad referring to? What is Mom trying to hide? And how does her new fiance fit into all of this? My sister has noticed my increasing anxiety and keeps asking what's wrong. I'm torn about whether to share my suspicions with her. On one hand, she's been my biggest support through all of this, and I hate keeping secrets from her. On the other hand, I don't want to burden her with my paranoid thoughts if I'm just overreacting. My little brother, 13M, is also picking up on the tension. He's been having nightmares and has started acting out at school. I feel guilty, like I'm not doing enough to protect him from all this adult drama. But how can I shield him when I don't even know what's really going on? As for me, the stress is really taking its toll. I've lost weight, I'm not sleeping well, and I'm jumping at every unexpected noise. My friends have noticed the change in me, but I don't know how to explain what I'm going through. How do you tell people that you think your family might be involved in something sinister? I'm also struggling with guilt. Part of me feels like I should just accept what my mom is telling me and try to move on with my life. Maybe I'm making mountains out of molehills, but another part of me can't shake the feeling that something is seriously wrong, and if I don't figure it out, something terrible might happen. The college application I was working on sits abandoned on my desk. How can I think about my future when I don't even understand my past? The deadline is looming, but it feels inconsequential compared to the mystery unfolding around me. So, Reddit, I find myself at another crossroads. Do I keep digging, potentially uncovering secrets that could shatter what's left of my family? Or do I try to accept things as they are and focus on moving forward with my life? Should I confront my mom about her suspicious behavior? Should I share my concerns with my sister? And most importantly, how do I find my dad and make sure he's okay? I feel like I'm living in a thriller novel, except this is my real life, and I have no idea how this story ends. Any advice on how to proceed would be greatly appreciated. Thank you all again for your support. I'll update again if I uncover anything significant. Update 2. Hey Reddit. It's been a week since my last update, and I have some shocking news to share. Brace yourselves, because this update is going to be a wild ride. The biggest news is that I finally saw my dad. It happened at my high school graduation party. I was standing by the punch bowl when I saw him, looking tired and disheveled, but very much alive. For a moment, I thought I was hallucinating, but then our eyes met, and I knew it was really him. He pulled me aside and started talking. What he told me has turned my world upside down even more than it already was. It turns out that my dad has been having an affair with a coworker for the past year. Mom discovered the affair 3 months ago. That's why Dad left so suddenly. According to him, Mom was furious and gave him an ultimatum: leave the house immediately, cut off contact with us kids, and pay a substantial amount in alimony and child support. In exchange, she wouldn't tell us about the affair. I was reeling from this information. On one hand, I was relieved to finally know where my dad had been and why he left. On the other hand, I felt betrayed and angry. How could he do this to our family? And how could Mom keep this from us? But wait, there's more. When I told Dad about Mom's sudden engagement and her plans to move away with my brother, he looked shocked. He said he had no idea about any of this. Then, when I mentioned the name of Mom's fiance, Dad's face went pale. Apparently, Dad knows this guy. They went to college together, and Dad described him as bad news. He wouldn't give me specifics, but he seemed genuinely worried about Mom's involvement with this man. Now, I'm more confused than ever. If Mom was so hurt by Dad's affair, why is she rushing into a new relationship? And why with someone Dad considers dangerous? There's still something missing from this picture. I can feel it. As for his disappearance from work and social media, Dad explained that he's been lying low, staying with a friend in a nearby town. He was afraid that if he kept his normal routines, one of us kids might run into him and blow his cover. I'm struggling to process all of this information. On one level, I'm angry at both my parents. Dad for cheating and breaking up our family. Mom for keeping secrets and potentially putting us in harm's way with this new fiance. But on another level, I can see how they both thought they were protecting us in their own way. After the party, I went home and locked myself in my room. I couldn't face Mom, not with all this new information swirling in my head. I lay on my bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of everything. The glow in the dark stars Dad and I put up when I was 10 seemed to mock me with their cheerful twinkle. My sister was the first person I called after talking to Dad. She was as shocked as I was. We spent hours on the phone, trying to make sense of everything. She's worried about Mom and this new guy too, especially given Dad's reaction to hearing about him. I haven't told my little brother anything yet. I'm not sure how much he should know, or if it's my place to tell him. He's already dealing with so much. I don't want to burden him further. This morning, I saw him looking at old family photos, tracing Dad's face with his finger. It broke my heart. As for Mom, I'm torn about how to approach her. Should I confront her about what Dad told me? Should I express my concerns about her fiance? Part of me is afraid that if I reveal what I know, she'll follow through on her plans to move away even faster. I'm also worried about Dad. Despite everything, I can see he's hurting. He looks like he hasn't slept in weeks, and I'm concerned about his mental health. He made me promise not to tell Mom that I'd seen him, but keeping this secret feels wrong too. The stress of all this is really getting to me. I've lost my appetite completely, and I can't remember the last time I had a full night's sleep. My friends have stopped calling, probably tired of my constant state of distraction and worry. I feel isolated, cut off from the normal teenage life I should be living. The college application I was working on sits abandoned on my desk, buried under a pile of brochures for family counseling. The deadline is in 2 weeks, but I can't bring myself to care. How can I write about my hopes and dreams for the future when my present is such a mess? Reddit. I thought knowing the truth would make things better, but in many ways, it's made everything more complicated. The weight of this knowledge feels overwhelming, and I'm unsure how to proceed. Confronting mom, protecting my little brother, considering dad's role in our future. All of these decisions now loom large, with no clear right answer. I feel like I'm carrying the weight of my entire family's future on my shoulders, and I'm not sure I'm strong enough to bear it. The path forward is murky, filled with potential pitfalls and life-altering choices. Thank you all for being there for me through this crazy journey. Your support has been a beacon of light in these dark times. I'll update again when I figure out my next move, whatever that may be. For now, I'm left grappling with truths I'm not sure I was ready to face, and decisions I never thought I'd have to make at 18. Update 3. Hey Reddit, it's been a roller coaster few days since my last update. Thank you all for your support and advice. I finally gathered the courage to confront my mom and, well, let's just say things didn't go as I expected. After my conversation with Dad at the graduation party, I spent days agonizing over how to approach Mom. I was scared of pushing her away, but I couldn't keep living with all these secrets and uncertainties. Finally, I decided to bite the bullet and talk to her. I waited until my little brother was at soccer practice so we could have some privacy. I found Mom in the kitchen, going through some papers. When she saw my serious expression, she immediately tensed up. "Mom," I said, my heart pounding, "we need to talk about Dad and about your fiance." The color drained from her face. For a moment, I thought she might deny everything or refuse to talk. But then she sighed deeply and gestured for me to sit down. "I guess it was only a matter of time," she said quietly. "What do you know?" I took a deep breath and told her everything about seeing Dad at the graduation party, his confession about the affair, and his concerns about her fiance. As I spoke, I watched a range of emotions flicker across her face: shock, anger, sadness, and finally, resignation. When I finished, Mom was quiet for a long moment. Then she started to speak, and what she told me left me reeling. It turns out, the story is even more complicated than I thought. Yes, Dad had an affair, but it wasn't the first time. Apparently, he'd had a string of infidelities over the years, each time promising it would never happen again. Mom had always forgiven him, partly for our sake, and partly because she still loved him. But this last affair was different. The woman Dad was seeing wasn't just a coworker. She was Mom's old college friend. Someone who had been to our house for dinner, who had held me as a baby. The betrayal cut deeper than ever before. As for Mom's fiance, well, that's where things get really messy. He's not just some guy Mom met recently. He's her ex-boyfriend from college. They dated briefly before she met Dad, but broke up when he took a job in another state. They reconnected about 2 years ago through social media and started talking again. Mom insists that nothing happened between them while she was still with Dad, but she admits that talking to him made her realize how unhappy she was in her marriage. When she discovered Dad's affair, her fiance was the one she turned to for support. I was struggling to process all this information when Mom dropped another bombshell. The reason she's so eager to move away isn't just about starting fresh. She's pregnant with her fiance's baby. She found out just a week after kicking Dad out. I felt like the room was spinning. How could this be happening? How could both my parents have betrayed our family like this? But why didn't you tell us the truth about Dad? I asked, my voice shaking. Why make him leave without explaining? Mom's eyes filled with tears. I was trying to protect you, she said. I thought if you kids knew about the affairs, it would destroy your relationship with your father. And I was ashamed. I felt like a failure for not being able to keep our family together. We talked for hours. Mom answered all my questions as honestly as she could. She admitted that she had handled things poorly, that keeping us in the dark had only made things worse. She also confessed that she's scared. Scared of starting over. Scared of being a mother again in her 40s. Scared that she might be making a huge mistake. As for Dad's warnings about her fiance, Mom says she doesn't know what he's referring to. According to her fiance has always been kind and supportive. She thinks Dad might be trying to sabotage her new relationship out of jealousy or guilt. By the end of our conversation, I felt emotionally drained. I had finally gotten the truth, or at least Mom's version of it. But it wasn't the relief I had hoped for. Instead, I felt more conflicted than ever. On one hand, I'm angry at both my parents for the lies and the affairs. I feel betrayed and let down. But on the other hand, I can see how much pain they're both in. They're human. They've made mistakes. And now they're trying to find a way forward, even if it's messy and imperfect. I'm worried about my little brother and how all of this will affect him. I'm concerned about Mom's pregnancy and whether she's rushing into things with her fiance. And I'm scared for Dad, who seemed so lost and broken when I saw him. As for me, I feel like I've aged 10 years in the past few weeks. The stress of keeping secrets, of trying to uncover the truth, of mediating between my parents, it's all taken a toll. My college application is still sitting unfinished on my desk, the deadline looming ever closer. But how can I think about college when my family is imploding? Reddit, I'm at a loss. I finally have the truth, but I don't know what to do with it. Should I try to reconcile my parents? Should I support Mom's decision to move on? How do I maintain a relationship with Dad without betraying Mom? And what about my own future? Should I put my plans on hold to help sort out this family mess? I feel like I'm standing in the middle of a hurricane, watching everything I thought I knew get swept away. Your advice and support have been a lifeline through all of this, and I could really use some guidance now. Thank you for listening to my story. I'll update again when I figure out what to do next. For now, I'm just trying to catch my breath and make sense of this new reality.